Look, this win proves that Alabama absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, has the right guy in Kalen DeBoer, the right staff around him, the right mentality that you want in the team. Hello and welcome. It is always college football. Week 5 is in the books. And what a week it was. We have had some time now. We, of course, put out our immediate rapid reaction show. But now we've had time to kind of dive in, to really watch the tape, watch the coach's tape, and draw some legitimate conclusions. So today, we are going to give you our top 10 takeaways from week 5 of the college football season. There's a bunch of good ones, too, including ones involving Bama, involving Georgia, involving Penn State, involving Oregon, involving Ohio State, Ole Miss, LSU, how the margins are tightening. There's a lot of great takeaways from this weekend's action. There was also a ton of grit on display and a few victories as well. We'll give some love where that love is due because there was a lot of fun outcomes from this weekend, and we look forward to diving into them with you. Before we get into our takeaways, I want to go ahead and encourage all of you to check right now. Pick up your phone, check the podcast platform of your choosing, and see whether or not you're subscribed to the podcast. Go ahead. It doesn't cost you anything. It's free. You can go ahead and subscribe. Go ahead and do that if you haven't done so already. And then while you're there, check one more time. Have you left the review? Have you left the rating? We would love it if you could. We work hard. You guys are the engine that drives the show. And we look forward to continuing to talk college football with you here throughout the rest of the college football season. So let's not waste any additional time. Let's dive in with takeaway number 1. Takeaway number 1, that was the best performance of the Kalen DeBoer era. That game from start to finish was a complete grind. That game required every single player that dressed, all 70 Alabama players that had a uniform on. I know not all played, but it required a tremendous amount of intensity, a tremendous amount of strain for 60 minutes of the ball game. It required everybody to be at their best. And even the guys that, like I said, didn't see the field, their energy from the sideline, I think, was palpable, was necessary in a spot like that. Georgia had won 33 consecutive games at home. They hadn't lost in 6 years. This was a win that was all about the team. This is one that establishes a foundation of what can be accomplished when the level of intensity is where it needs to be to go on the road into a remarkably hostile setting and get a big win. It was phenomenal stuff. I mean, it really was. It was phenomenal stuff from Alabama. But the game was really defined by critical moments. Third downs, conversions and stops, fourth downs, getting off the field in critical moments of the game, red zone trips that you leave empty-handed when you could have potentially gotten 3 or 6. The offensive plan from start to finish from Alabama, Ryan Grubb, Kalen DeBoer, that incredible offensive brain trust that we always talk about, it was a thing of beauty. I mean, the first 2 drives were scripted about as well as you can possibly ask for. You're sitting there, you got your quarterback comfortable. Yes, you leave a big play on the field with the Ryan Williams drop. That didn't define them. They just kept going. They kept churning. They were patient with the run game. Yeah, they didn't spring any big runs, and the rushing stats aren't going to blow you away. But the run game opened up some things in the pass game. And third down execution was off the charts good. It also showed a level of mettle and something that we haven't always seen over the last couple of years from Alabama. I mean, Georgia's going to fight. They're going to answer, right? It's not like you're going to go toe-to-toe, wall-to-wall, start to finish, and just completely dominate the Dogs. That's just not going to happen. Not with how well coached they are, how proud they are, how resilient they are. So you're sitting there at 14-0. Everything's gone beautifully for Alabama up to that point. And then Georgia hits a double move, touchdown down the right sideline. What does Ryan Grubb call on the very next offensive play? When Georgia gets momentum, they kind of want to go for the jugular. What does Ryan Grubb do? He says, yep, you know what? You're going to attack me. You're going to try to knock us out. Let me go ahead and dial up a screen, gain 27 yards, and immediately destroy any momentum that Georgia would be able to create on the first snap of the next drive. And then the drive at the end of half, that was the dagger. UGA is probably sitting there thinking to themselves, yep, hey, everything's good. They fumbled inside their own 10, and we're still going to go into half with a 3-point deficit. Man, we feel great about where we're at. I'm sure that's exactly what Georgia was thinking there with about 2+ minutes left in the half. Well, boom, Bama then delivers the death nail. They decide, you know what, we could take this thing into half, feel good about where we're at, or we can press the pedal again. We can accelerate again. It's exactly what they decided to do. They go down, steal 7 right before half, and it feels like a completely different game. Ty Simpson, their quarterback, is growing up right before our eyes. I mean, he is playing at a crazy high level right now. So much poise, so much command, so much confidence. It's really fun to watch. I mean, it really is the way he's seeing the defense. And the first drive, I think, was a testament to his growth and mental fortitude. You have the big drop by Williams that would have been a touchdown, right? For a lot of guys, I mean, that hurts. You know, I throw a perfectly thrown ball, guy drops the ball, it's a touchdown, man. Like you have to be able to compartmentalize that immediate disappointment. And he was able to do that. Why? Because the next play, you got an unblocked Georgia player coming off the right-hand side. He beats the blitz by converting a 3rd and 10 to the left hand. I mean, quarterbacks are constantly defined, and the best ones in the history of the game are defined by 2 categories. 1, third down. How do they play on third down? Do they keep the offense on the field? Do they continue drives? Well, check that box, because he was off the charts on third down, seeing the field, being accurate, tight window throws, anticipating throws, and being deliberate in the midst of a lot of pressure at times. I also think, too, you are evaluated by what you do in 2-minute situations. What makes Tom Brady the greatest quarterback in the history of the world? His 2-minute execution. The guy, if he gets the ball with 30 seconds left, you still think he's going to score. He's just that level of precise. And I think Ty Simpson is growing in those 2 areas in tremendous ways. And against a good defense in a hostile environment, he was at his best when his best was needed. You also got to give some credit to the pass protection, too. And we've talked a little bit about Georgia's issues getting to the opposing quarterback and the lack of a real pass rush. Well, Ty Simpson on 40 dropbacks was pressured just 8 times. That's the lowest pressure percentage a quarterback has faced against Georgia this year. So the offensive line, a point of contention at times in the Florida State game, they were at their very best. One of the best moments was the 3rd and 5 conversion to win the game. The creativity on display there by Ryan Grubb. You fake the boot to the right, you wheel him back to the left, hit the running back in the flat. It's an amazing play. High percentage, perfect execution. It was awesome. Just offensively, there was so much to like about how they executed in this performance. And then defensively, they matched Georgia's physicality, which is not an easy thing to do. And that is a night and day difference from what we saw a couple weeks ago. They were opportunistic. They were delivering hits on the ball. They obviously punched the ball out. Big fumble there inside Georgia's own 10-yard line. They need to clean up a few things in the run game for sure. They got gashed a couple times. Guys were out of position. Linebackers played out of position. It led to some big runs by Georgia. Georgia's a good football team. They're going to make some plays. But when the game was on the line, they made the play. For example, the 4th and 1 stop, they're inside the 10-yard line. Cash Jones scores. I mean, he has one man to beat, and he scores. He might walk into the end zone to the right-hand side, but for Overton to somehow find his way through that left side, make the play behind the line of scrimmage is massive. Look, this win proves that Alabama absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, has the right guy in Kalen DeBoer, the right staff around him, the right mentality that you want in the team. Remarkable focus and intensity in a hostile environment on the road. It was the most impressive moment of Kalen DeBoer's 2-year tenure up to this point. They are this week's Team of the Week, the Alabama Crimson Tide. Takeaway number 2. Georgia's performance on critical downs sealed their fate. Now, all the reasons why Georgia went to Knoxville and beat Tennessee in a game that was remarkable just a couple weeks ago, all the reasons why they won that game, that's why they lost the game against Alabama. They simply didn't win the big moments. And against Tennessee, in all those gotta-have-it situations, they made the play. Against Alabama, they just seemingly couldn't do it. And it was on both sides of the ball, both offensively and defensively. Defensively, they couldn't get off the field on third down. Alabama kind of picked them apart. The pass rush was non-existent for the most part. And then offensively, they couldn't convert as well. I mean, the biggest reason why they lost this game was probably third down. I mean, let's start with the good, though. I mean, there's a lot of good on this tape from Georgia. I think they ran the ball really well. The offensive line looked much better. Their backs hit the holes with a lot of urgency and intensity, and I do think they now have three guys there in the backfield. Bowens, Frazier, McCray, like they have three guys at running back that are really solid and complement each other very nicely. Now, don't like fumbles. Of course, Frazier puts the ball on the deck, but they were able to manufacture some big plays, especially on the ground. They were able to manufacture some big plays through the air as well. I think Gunnar Stockton's a really good quarterback. I think they have their guy. I like so far what I've seen. That throw that he made on the first touchdown pass on the double move was great. Now, they also left a lot of big plays on the field. The big drop down the middle of the field that would have given them a 28-24 lead. That was a huge one, right? That's one could have completely flipped the game. They drop it. So all the plays they made, all the incredible moments they had, fourth down conversions, clutch plays down the stretch, answering back in massive way, making some tweaks defensively, all the things they did against Tennessee, it kind of went the other direction in this game. But a couple real big takeaways for the Dogs. Still very much a believer in what they are going to do as the season goes along. But they have got to figure out a way to start faster. This has now become a bit of a trend. We saw it against Alabama in the blink of an eye. Before Georgia could even manufacture, 6 or 7 offensive snaps, they're down 14-0. I mean, immediately. Not that dissimilar to what we saw in the Tennessee game. I mean, they are in a 21-7 hole in the blink of an eye. So their two biggest games, they're in a big hole, man. You just can't live that way. They're not designed to play that way. They're a team that absolutely needs to kind of play complementary. They need to run the football. They do have firepower. I do think they can score, but they have to start faster. And until they do that, it's going to be very challenging. And they got to win the most critical moments in the game. Like, this one hurts, this one stings, but I think Georgia will come out of this game thinking, yep, you know what? We did this poorly. We did this poorly. We need to be better here. And if we do those few things, just a couple things here or there, make 3 or 4 plays just here or there, it's probably a different outcome. They were this close, but they were also this close against Tennessee from losing that game. If not for a 4th and 6 down the right sideline, we could be looking at a Georgia team with 2 losses already, sitting at 2-2. So they got to find a way to make those big plays all the time, because this is a championship caliber outfit. And as the margins in college football get smaller, you got to be on the right side of third down. You got to be on the right side of red zone. You got to be on the right side of 2-minute. If you're not, you're going to have your hands full. Takeaway number 3, Oregon just took down a heavyweight in their house. This, guys, watching this game, this was a heavyweight fight. I mean, this was Mike Tyson against Evander Holyfield in my childhood. Like, that was the type of matchup that it was. I mean, these guys were throwing haymakers at each other. It was bruising. It was physical. It was a slugfest in every possible way. It was so entertaining to watch those defenders on both sides, by the way, come downhill, and the collisions that you saw throughout this game were amazing. I mean, I came out of it thinking, like, that was about as physical a football game as I've seen this whole season. Both teams impressed me greatly with how they approached it. But frankly, Oregon has been a team in the past that I have not always thought, all right, in a bruising heavyweight fight where it's going to require body blows, where it's going to require patience, can they be that team? Is that who they are? Well, I know this. I know that's what they've become with Dan Lanning. What I loved most about Dan Lanning's approach in this game was how much he empowered his group. Think about it as an offensive player. You're sitting there. You have a lot of faith in yourself, or at least I hope you do. You're playing at Oregon. You're probably pretty dang talented. But think about how many times Dan Lanning opted to go for it on 4th down. He went for it 7 times in the game. 7 times. they left their offense on the field on fourth down. They went 5 of 7 on those conversions. And that's just an amazing level of trust that Dan Lanning has in his offensive skill and his quarterback, Dante Moore. I mean, I know if I'm sitting there and my coach is like, y'all stay out there, I know y'all got it, that's going to light a fire under me that is going to be tough to put out. And I loved how aggressive they were. I loved how they trusted he has. And I love, too, that when they didn't get it, the defense going to step up. You know, hey, I trust my defense, too. You guys don't get it? Yeah, we won't play the field position game. No problem. I trust my defense. They'll get the ball back to us. That's awesome. And I think that's really, really important in the long-term development of this program. Remember, this is a young football team for the most part. A lot of new faces. A lot of guys that are still early in their college career. And to go on the road into an environment like that and to have their coach say, hey, you know what? I got your back here. That says an awful lot about where this program's heading. Their quarterback, man, I love what I've seen so far from Dante Moore, man. I love so much watching this young man play. He sees the field so well. I mean, he just has such a level of comfort. When you watch him, don't you just get the sense that he's just in such control? Like, you just know he has an answer. You know he has a great job of understanding where his problems might be. They bring pressure. Cool, I know where it's at. He's just always just very calm, always just plays with such a great demeanor. The way he gets around defenders, the way he evades pressure. He's playing so fast right now. I mean, when I watch Dante Moore, and I'm not going to put myself into the helmet, but I remember these moments as a player. Like when I was playing, there were a couple games where it's like, man, I'm just seeing everything really, really well tonight. Like I just know where they're coming from. I know where my answers are. I know what I'm going to do to try to attack the defense on this specific snap. And as a result, the game really slows down. There's some times where it's like guys are flying all over the place. You don't see anything, and it feels like the defense has 13, 14 players out there. That's never the case when I watch Dante Moore. And I thought maybe because of what they've seen up to this point, maybe this moment, this defense that he was going to see in Penn State was going to be a step up in competition that he wasn't going to be totally prepared for, that it would be a bit of a learning curve in this environment. That couldn't have been further from the truth. I mean, he is seeing the game. It just looks like everything is just in slow motion. He's calm. He's cool. He's collected, and he just feels like a guy that just, it has an effect on everybody else on the team. It's really, really fun to watch. They have a special one out there in Eugene. His best play of the night might have been that touchdown throw in the second overtime because they booed him out from left to right. There's a defender right there. I mean, he is dead to rights. I mean, he has nowhere to go, and he has to stop on a dime, step up, evade the defender, actually gets the ball away from the defender, which is just great coaching and awesome because so many times guys will leave it out there. It'll get stripped out of their hands as they try to pull it through. Though he pulls it through, steps up, calmly evades, and throws an absolute strike. I mean, it was such a great play. And it might not look like much, but from a quarterback's perspective, that was big time. And he does that over and over and over again. But I'm telling you what, I love the quarterback. That might be Oregon's best attribute. But if it's not the quarterback, their running backs, man, they are so good. I mean, they are so quick. They are so athletic. The way they accelerate. I mean, the level of acceleration we see from Oregon's backs is just like nobody else, I don't feel like in college football right now at running back. Very few accelerate like that. Like Bucky Irving did it too. So I don't know if it's just the style of back they try to go after. But the way they accelerate into contact, too, is just something. It's awesome. Those backs are phenomenal. And the offensive line, too, not to be outdone. This group is so athletic. I mean, the first touchdown, for example, like you watch the first touchdown, little screen to the right. Watch that right tackle absolutely destroy a defender to the right side of the screen. I mean, that defender flies, it feels like 4 yards. Because that right tackle just completely cleans his clock. And then defensively, I really, really appreciated what I saw from their run defense. Now, I think this front seven is sporty now. And I think Penn State's rushing attack is a handful to kind of keep them in check, to not allow the big plays that they really needed to create says an awful lot. I think this was such a huge win for Oregon because we knew they had talent. We knew they had athleticism. But how would they respond to getting punched in the face? Well, we know the response now. Because they're sitting there, they're in complete control, up 17-3. Feels like the game is over. At this point, 14 points might well be 100. Well, boom, Penn State storms right back. All of a sudden, it's in overtime. And the Ducks didn't flinch. No problem. Perfect. We'll pick up a couple fourth downs, by the way, in overtime. We'll score. Then we'll score on the first play of the second overtime. A beautiful play like I just described. And then, boom, we'll make the play defensively and put the game on ice. Man, that was a gutsy performance from Oregon. And they have an immense amount of respect from me after watching it. Tremendous, tremendous stuff. Takeaway number 4. Same old Penn State. Different year, same team. Now, I really like their defense. And I really do. I think their defense, that is a championship caliber defense. They are a mauling football team. They want to get after you. They're super physical. Their defenders play downhill. They want to get after you. And it's fun to watch. That defense is the real deal. But here's the problem. Like this Penn State team, they're bruisers. Which is a great identity to have. But can you win a national championship playing that way? I don't know the answer to that right now. I look at Oregon, for example. Like Oregon can beat you 100 different ways. 100 different ways. You want to turn it into a track meet? Go for it. You want to make it a 55-52 game? Cool. We can play that way. You want to play the game in the phone booth? Cool. Yeah, we can play that way too. Oregon has 100 different pathways to victory. I don't feel like Penn State has that many paths. I mean, when I watch Penn State, they feel so similar to the way they've felt the last couple of years. It feels like there's really been no progress made in some cases. Like, if you watch Drew Aller throughout the course of the game, at least until the last 2 drives, how many times did he throw off his back foot? And I counted at least 8 to 10 throws where he's drifting away and kind of like throwing. I don't know if he was feeling the pressure. I don't know if he was seeing the pass rush, but there had to have been 8 to 10 times in which his big body's moving backwards as he's releasing the football. Like, no, you anchor that back foot, you drive the ball. I mean, you drive the football. And I felt like constantly in the first 3 or 4 quarters, it's like he's drifting away. It's leading to him being a little inaccurate. It's leading to him missing some targets that he probably should have hit. If he just stands back there and drives the ball with conviction, it's a completely different animal. But we didn't see that. And that's kind of been a problem the last couple of years. In the end of the game, interception was a terrible decision. It's 1st and 10. He's trying to thread one to Luke Reynolds, where the Oregon defenders, there's 3 or 4 of them that all kind of go right towards Luke Reynolds. If you actually just toss it out in the flat, guess what? You got a blocker and you got some space because everybody's trying to cover Luke Reynolds. Perfect. I'll just dump it to the back. He'll take it upfield. We'll let the play second down. Instead, critical moment, tries to do too much, and it results in a game-ending interception. Look, Devontae Ross is their most explosive weapon. Like, he needs to be the featured guy in every game plan. Like, they hit the deep ball, right, on the first touchdown. But that was the first time in the entire game it felt like they stretched the field. I mean, it feels like so many other teams, when you watch them across the board, whether it's Ohio State, whether it's Oregon, whether it's Bama, whether it's Miami, like you name it, like name all the top, Ole Miss, name all the top teams in college football. They can threaten you deep on every single snap. Like there is always a fear of a big play being created. I don't get that same fear when I'm watching Penn State. And guess what? That was the same issues that we had last year when watching the Nittany Lions. Like, where's the firepower? Where's the downfield threat? Where's the explosive passing attack? It's not there. And the offense is inconsistent from time to time. You look at the numbers, and they're outgained by, $150? Now, this is a championship caliber defense, but they can't do it alone. Now, I think the defense put on a valiant performance. And to hold Oregon to just 17 points in regulation is enormous. But they seemingly just can't seem to make that huge play in games like this. For example, there's one play early in the game. Ball's thrown to DeCorian Moore. Kind of bobbles it. It's on a little slant. Tips it up. A.J. Harris is right there. I mean, he can grab the interception. Instead, it gets kind of tipped back up and more turns what could have been an interception into an 8-yard gain. And that play might not look big on the stat sheet, but that's a significant play. I mean, those are the plays you have to make when you're going to win games like this. Look, I got a ton of respect for the resilience and the heart of this team. I do. I mean, I look at them, offense struggles. I thought they showed a lot of character by putting together that furious comeback there in the fourth quarter. And the loss is devastating for sure. But I got to see more explosiveness offensively. I got to see more big plays created. When you're playing against teams like Oregon, like Ohio State, teams with elite defense, you got to be able to manufacture explosives. And so far, for how many years, it's felt like Penn State is not a team that can consistently create those when they get against top-tier defenses. Takeaway number 5. Ohio State just aced one of their biggest tests. Now, a lot of people across the country will not acknowledge this, probably because they haven't watched Washington. I think there's a lot of people that have not paid attention to what this Washington team is capable of. I think this Washington team might win 9 games. I really believe that. I think, and this includes Texas, I think Ohio State just played against the most dynamic offense they're going to face in the regular season. And to make matters even more challenging, you're going into a place in Seattle where the Huskies were riding a 22-game home win streak. They entered into the game averaging 56 points per game on offense. That was the best in college football. And they managed just 234 yards. That was their fewest at home since 2021. Damon Williams is an absolute star at quarterback. I mean, he is the real deal. He didn't look that way against this defense. Jonah Coleman, their running back, might be one of the best running backs in college football. He is amazing. This Washington offensive lineup to this point has been great so far. And while Washington's defense isn't great, they're fine. They're okay. And this, by the way, to make matters even more challenging, you have a relatively inexperienced team that have played together. I mean, remember, a lot of faces now that are gone off last year's national championship winner, and they're going on the road for the very first time. I mean, they passed this test with flying colors. What I love so much about what Ohio State has become is how much they really want to play complementary football. And I thought Washington had a really good offensive plan. They had diversity in the run game. They used some tempo. They tried to catch Ohio State off guard. But man, watching Ohio State's defense, when things constrict, when they get in the red zone, they seem to get way better. I don't know what it is, but all of a sudden the pass rush emerges out of nowhere. They are so disciplined on defense. It's really fun to watch. Like I said, that pass rush is starting to come on. You know how hard it is, by the way, to get a sack on a called screen? They did it late in the first half. They just make so many plays in critical moments. Sacks in the red zone, open field tackles in the red zone. They're really good. They always are in the right place. Like if you're going to beat Ohio State, you're going to have to earn it. They're not going to give you the freebies. They're not going to give you the cheap ones. You have to earn it. And that's a testament to a really well-coached group on the defensive side of the ball. But on the offensive side of the ball, I love what I'm seeing. Now, it's not the Ohio State offense that we saw with C.J. Stroud a couple years ago. It's not that. It's not the Ohio State offense that we saw in 2017 with Dwayne Haskins. This is not an offense right now that is going to light up the scoreboard against top-tier competition. Why? Because they don't have to. They want their quarterback, Julian Sayin, to just play really smart football. And that's exactly what he's doing. He's not trying to be a hero. He's not trying to take over the game. He's just trying to be efficient. And it is really, really nice. I mean, so much of their passing game are just quick little RPOs. Just a little bubble screen here. Just a little short throw here. Kind of a dink and dunk, kill you with 1,000 paper cuts type of approach. I mean, how many times throughout the game did we see bootlegs? I mean, fake the run to the left, boot the quarterback back to the right. I mean, that's pretty much what they do. This is a run-first football team, which is very different from what we've seen in the past from Ohio State. I know the numbers won't necessarily marry that up, but if you watch them, I mean, their offense is kind of running through Bo Jackson. I mean, he runs so hard, and there are countless times when he's just dragging defenders and running through contact. And I think this offense is really, with what they're doing defensively and how good they are on that side of the ball, this offense makes perfect sense. Like, they are playing complementary. They're not getting overly aggressive. If they need to, they can. They still have unbelievable weapons on the outside, but lean on the run game. Break your quarterback in. Make him feel comfortable. Remember, he's only started a handful of games. It's not like this guy's played a ton of football right now. Take the pressure off of him with bootlegs, simple reads, easy completions. I think they've done a great job up to this point. And if you look at their schedule, too, I just told you, I think they just beat the most dynamic offense they're going to see this year. And they did so in remarkable fashion, holding them to 234 and just 6 points. You got Minnesota this week. Not going to level that, not going to present that type of difficulty offensively. At Illinois, I like Illinois a lot, but I think Ohio State's offense matches up really well against what Illinois is trying to do. They're at Wisconsin. I haven't seen anything right now from Wisconsin that scares me to death offensively. Penn State, what we just saw, I don't think Penn State's going to be able to manufacture a lot of points against Ohio State. I just don't, unless they completely change who they are here in the next 3 weeks. At Purdue, UCLA, Rutgers, at Michigan, there's not an offense on that schedule right now that scares me more than Washington's. That was a much more impressive victory than the national pundits will tell you. So tip your cap to the Buckeyes, because that was outstanding. Takeaway number 6, do not sleep on Ole Miss. Now, if you look at what they did this past weekend, I think they have now firmly established that they have a quarterback that's a bona fide star. I mean, Trinidad Chambliss is a star. It's just his third start, Division II transfer from Ferris State, and it was not pretty early. Like, it was hard. And I have a ton of respect. Mostly everybody that's watched him this year has a ton of respect for what LSU does defensively. I don't know how you couldn't. I mean, they are really good at all 3 levels. They have a lot of guys that are dynamic. They have defensive linemen that can take over the game. They have linebackers that can fly sideline to sideline. They have legitimate erasers at several levels, and I think their secondary is as good as there is in college football. Like, they are that good. Mansour Delane is a complete lockdown. A.J. Halsey, their safety, is one of the most instinctive players in the sport. And you know what? No problem. Trinidad Chambliss goes out, throws for 314. Critical third down throws in the second half that were enormous. Adds 71 on the ground. He has now went for over 400 yards of total offense in the first 2 matchups, but you can kind of point to it and say, you know what? That was against Arkansas, who clearly has struggles defensively. That was against Tulane. That's a G5 opponent. Like, what's he going to do against real competition? We all had that question, right? How could you not? I mean, it's a fair question to have. This will be by far the most talented defense that Trinidad Chambliss has ever seen. And it made no difference whatsoever. 3rd consecutive game, he's gone over 300 yards to the year. He's got dual threat playmaking ability. And I think his level of poise and execution was on display perfectly on that 20-yard pass to Daquan Wright on a gutsy 4th down call by Lane Kiffin. That call by itself, they were in field goal range. They could have kicked the field goal, made it an 8-point game. Instead, Lane Kiffin says, you know what? Nope, I trust my quarterback. Calmly delivers an accurate throw for the game-winning conversion. He is our dude of the week. Trinidad Chambliss, quarterback of the Ole Miss Rebels. Another takeaway in this game, though. They know for a while now this team can score. Ole Miss, for as long as Lane Kiffin's there, they've been averaging over 507 yards since 2020. That's most in college football. Very few teams have been as good as the Rebels the last few years when it comes to manufacturing offense. But one thing that has not been as good at times in Lane Kiffin's tenure has been the defense. That was not the case last year. They were elite at all 3 levels defensively last year, which led to, one of the best performances we've seen from an Ole Miss defense in a very long time. They led the nation in sacks. They led the nation in tackles for loss. They led the nation in rush defense. They were amazing. All right. They were amazing all throughout last year. That has not been the case this year, though. They gave up 35 to Arkansas. They gave up a decent amount of big plays against other teams they've faced. They've struggled stopping the run. They had given up 190 yards on the ground a game. That was not anywhere near what we've come to expect from a Pete Golding-led defense. Well, guess what? They were back the other day. Now, part of this has to do with LSU. But a lot of this also has to do with the fact that this is a stifling defense with a really good and disruptive front, and they just held the Bayou Bengals to 254 total yards. That's 100 yards below their season average. They were especially good, though, on third down. They allowed just 2 for 11 on third down conversions. And some Terrian Perkins all over the field, man. He was great. Also had a critical stop on the 2-point conversion late in the game. So if you just look at everything right now, I think Ole Miss is rounding into a team that could become a huge problem as the season goes along. They're currently 5-0, and let's look at the schedule, all right? Washington State at Georgia, huge game. On the 18th of October, they're at Oklahoma on the 25th of October. At that point, will John Mateer be back for Oklahoma? Who knows? South Carolina's at home, the Citadel. They have Florida at home on the 15th of November before they finish up in the Egg Bowl on the road in Starkville against the Mississippi State Bulldogs. Right now, they're 5-0. Like I said, I think 5-2 probably gets them in the playoff. And at this point, right now, I can only tell you for sure that they will be an underdog one time. For sure, they'll be an underdog at Georgia. Now, will they be on the road at Oklahoma? We'll see. Will they be at any other point? Probably not. This team could be a team that at season's end, they're sitting there 10-2, and that might even be a surprise because if they hold serve as the favorite, they might be in a position to be exactly where they need to be, and that's punching their ticket to the playoff for the first time when they came up short last year. Takeaway number 7, LSU officially has problems on the offensive side of the football. Now, the most urgent takeaway from this performance is the glaring lack of rhythm, lack of efficiency that we've seen from this group from start to finish. Now, a lot of this has to do with an inability right now to run the football on a consistent basis. Now, they did not run the ball well in this game. They struggled against a 3-man rush. Their offensive line is a problem right now. And we had a feeling that that group might take some time. We had a feeling that that group, after losing 4 guys that were drafted to the NFL, that they would struggle maybe a little bit early in the season. Well, it's come to fruition in a big way. Haven't been able to consistently run the football, which puts a tremendous amount of pressure on the passing attack. It also, they didn't do a great job in pass protection in this game too. When they're just rushing 3 and Garrett Nussmeier still feeling pressure, Garrett Nussmeier still having to leave the pocket against just a 3-man rush, like that just can't happen. You got to give credit to Ole Miss's defensive front. They were disruptive, they were active, and the box score doesn't show a lot of sacks. Nussmeier was constantly having to run for his life, and with the run game kind of bottled up, they couldn't really establish the tempo that they needed to kind of have some urgency on that side of the ball. And then with Garrett Nussmeier, man, it's been documented. He's got an ab injury. It's been something he's been dealing with all season long. It limited his practice reps in week 1, 2, and 3. Last couple weeks, he's been getting more and more into a more consistent practice regimen, but he still doesn't look healthy. Like when I've watched Garrett Nussmeier, I've been watching him for a long time. I think he's a tremendously talented young man. He can drive the football. He's got a big arm. Well, there are a lot of misses right now when I watch Garrett Nussmeier. And even some of the throws that are caught are what we would consider to be, quote, misses when you have a guy with that level of potential. Whether it's low, slightly off the mark, slightly behind, yeah, they're caught, but it doesn't allow for a lot of yards after catch. Like, he's got to be better. He's got to be more accurate. There were at least 2 or 3 big plays left on the field where there were open LSU receivers down the field, and he just missed them. One in particular down the right sideline to Chris Hilton that would have been a touchdown if he just gets that ball out there. I mean, he's got to be better. He is their best offensive player, and up to this point, he has not been the guy that we expected him to be. Hopefully, he can get healthy, and hopefully he can get back to playing at a ridiculously high level like we would anticipate from him down the stretch, because they have exactly what you want on defense, but now the offense has to do their part. And at some point, that group's got to get going, because they're going to see some really good offenses that can score points, and there's going to be a game or two in which they got to win a track meet. Right now, I am not confident that LSU can win that track meet, even though guys have been open and plays and opportunities have been missed. Takeaway number 8. This weekend was all about grit. I mean, it was on display from start to finish. There were so many games in which I felt like tremendous grit was shown by the team that was victorious. We'll start with Tennessee. Going on the road to Mississippi State, get this game in overtime. This is, everyone's kind of calling them the cardiac balls right now. Once again, little tightrope, dramatic comeback, force overtime. This was a really big win by Josh Heupel. I mean, you have to acknowledge that if they lose this game with what's coming up on their schedule, it's going to be a very uphill battle. With the road trip to Tuscaloosa, a handful of other games against ranked opponents, like they had to have this one. And Joey Aguilar did not have a flawless performance. But down the stretch, 13 plays, 75-yard drive to tie the game, capping it with that 6-yard touchdown run. Bishop then seals the victory with a touchdown on the first play from overtime. This was a lot of poise under pressure against a team that was throwing haymakers. That was a very gutsy win from Tennessee. Also, gutsy win, Indiana. I mean, this was a very difficult place to go play. We all know what Kinnick Stadium's all about. Going to Iowa is always challenging, especially when you take into account that the Hoosiers the week before completely diced up Illinois from start to finish. Well, you knew that this was a game that was going to be a little ugly. There were going to be some bad on this tape. It was going to be a grind, and they delivered. 90 seconds remaining in the game, Fernando Mendoza to Elijah Surratt on a slant where Surratt kind of breaks a tackle, races to the end zone. Very, very clutch against a stout defense. And it does kind of give you a bit of a sense, like what does Indiana do from here? I don't know, but this is a tough spot for Indiana after everyone was telling them how great they were last week to go on the road to handle their business. Gutsy win for the Hoosiers. How about the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets? It was not pretty. They're at halftime, down 17-3, sitting there undefeated. This was a big comeback. Obviously solidifies Georgia Tech as a legitimate contender in the ACC. We've already known that. But man, to win an ugly game on the road, this builds a lot of character. And this team possesses a certain level of mental toughness. Now, there were a few things that were problematic that will probably be attacked again. But to go and get a win after getting the huge hole early says an awful lot. And then finally, the Fighting Illini of Illinois knocking off USC. Back and forth game, came down to the final play, 41-yard field goal from David Alano. It was very impressive, given what transpired with Illinois the week before. To lose by 50-plus to Indiana and to rebound the way they rebounded was tremendous. It says a lot about their players. It says a lot about their coaching staff. The way they executed on the game-winning drive, off the charts. And I do think that this style of offensive attack is very sustainable. They were balanced. I thought Altmaier played beautifully. I also thought that he did a great job running the football when he needed to. I thought the offensive line really stepped up. I didn't think the pass rush was nearly as much of a factor as I thought it might be throughout the game. This was a massive win. It's going to get things back on track for the Illini. And it kind of makes that 53-point loss just a couple weeks ago, it makes Indiana's win look even more impressive. But this is huge to kind of get back on track for the Illini as they try to continue to play the spoiler there in the Big Ten. Takeaway number 9. Another one bites the dust with Sam Pittman, man. And look, no one likes to see anyone lose their job. I never like to see it. I kind of thought that in watching that performance to drop 156-13 to Notre Dame was just a very, very difficult one to swallow. Sam Pittman's record then dropped 32-34. And Sam Pittman's one of the most lovable, affable. He's just an everyman, you know? He was a career position coach, goes to Arkansas, sits there and kind of revitalizes a program that had struggled so much. There were some great moments in his tenure. I mean, there really was. He gets there. They had lost 20 straight SEC games throughout most of the Chad Morris era. Kind of turned into a pretty fun team to watch there for a little bit. A team that goes on and has bowl performances the last few years. Like, they've done a lot of good things. But their biggest, Notre Dame's biggest win ever over an active SEC program and Arkansas's worst home loss in 5 years, this was probably the week they had to do it. Bye week this week. It makes sense that they're going in this direction. I hate it for what happened and where things went. But after 5 games, these are when these decisions are likely going to be made, right? Because you can play in up to 4 games as a player and still redshirt. And we have seen some teams pull the plug already prior to the 5th game. Deshaun Foster at UCLA, Mike Gundy at Oklahoma State, Brent Pry at Virginia Tech. But this week, next week, last week, the 5-game mark is when ADs are probably going to start to drop the hammer. Because now, once the players have played 5, they can no longer redshirt. Now is the time when you're probably going to make a move. And you hate it. I love Sam Pittman to death. I think the world of him. It just wasn't going in the right direction. So now we have 5 openings at the end of the year in the Power 4 right now. Deshaun Foster at UCLA, Oklahoma State, Virginia Tech, and then Stanford. Remember, Frank Wright's there, but that's just a 1-year rental. So that job will be open as well. And then you add Arkansas to the mix. I think this could be a huge year as far as the coach carousel is concerned. So far, like I said, we have 4 that have been fired, 1 that will come open. I think we could see as many as 15 openings this year. It's going to be a big year, I think, when it comes to the coaching carousel. And I think there will probably be 1, maybe 2 more names to drop here in the next week or 2. Takeaway number 10. College football outcomes are becoming more and more like the NFL. But just think about it. We're through 1 month of the season, right? Some teams have played 5 games. Some teams have played 4 games, whatever the circumstances may be. The margins for victory and or defeat feel tighter than they've ever been. Okay, so far, just so you kind of understand where we're at historically speaking. All right, there are 7 teams right now in Power 4 versus Power 4 football. Power 4 versus Power 4 games. So not documenting games against G5 or FCS teams or even D2 teams. Like removing those games from the mix. In those first 4 or 5 games, and if you take into account good versus good, Power 4 versus Power 4, there are 7 teams right now that have a points per game margin of 14 or more points. Just 7 teams right now in college football. That is down significantly from where things have been in the past. Now, in the first month of the season in 2023, in Power 4 versus Power 4 football, there were 12 teams that had a 14-plus point per game margin over their opponent. There were 14 in 2019. There were 12 in 2022. And this year we have 7. So you got to take into account, guys, things are starting to change. Let's go to the SEC just for a moment. There were 2 teams last year that won games by an average of double digits, Texas and Ole Miss. In 2023, there were 3. In 2022, there were 3. In 2019, they were 4. In 2018, for example, Alabama won games by about 30 points per game. Now, all those numbers, all those margins are way slimmer today than they've ever been. You can see it. It's backed up by stats. So what does that indicate? And I tell you, it's coming down to the NFL. You know what determines outcomes in the NFL every single week? You probably know. I mean, you probably watch a little NFL. It's the biggest sport in the United States of America. I'm sure you're diehard college football fans. You're here with us. Probably watch a little NFL. You know what the NFL games are decided by? Turnover margin, number 1. The team that wins the turnover margin, probably going to win the game. Third down. That's the biggest point of emphasis in the NFL. If you convert your third downs, you're going to be in a great spot to win. If you get off the field defensively on third down, you're probably going to win. It's determined by red zone. Right now in college football, like most everybody can move it between the 20s. But those teams that when they get to the red zone and the yards get tight, those teams that score touchdowns as opposed to teams that settle for field goals, those are the teams that are going to win the game. And then finally, it comes down to how you perform in the end of half and the end of game situations. Those are the 4 things that determine in the NFL who wins and loses. And so far in this game, like let's look back at the game, for example, with Alabama this weekend. Alabama and Georgia. Alabama won on third down. They won in turnover margin. They also won the end of half situation by going down and getting 7 points at the end of half. And when they were in the red zone, they scored, as opposed to Georgia getting stopped on 4th and short inside the red zone. Georgia converts, they might win. Bama stops them, they win. The margins are slimmer than they've ever been. So it really has come down because the gap in talent is not what it once was, guys. The gap in depth is not what it once was. So if you want to win, you better win in the margins. That's where things are going. And it's been very, very fun. We've done 5 games right now in college football this year on our crew with Sean McDonough and Molly McGrath. Every single game has come down to the last possession. Every single one. And guys, guess what? That's not changing, at least not this year. Always on Monday's show, we get back to the bold predictions that you guys make. You can always submit these on our social media handles at AlwaysCFB. You can also submit them on our YouTube page. So if you're here with us on the YouTube page, leave a comment. We'll look at it, make a bold prediction. We'll give you some love if you're close. Let's start with Carolyn. Mississippi State will have their first loss against Tennessee, or vice versa. Tennessee will have their second loss. I'm not sure what prediction's been made here, because I think you predicted that Mississippi State could lose or Tennessee could lose, but I appreciate the submission anyways. Thank you, Carolyn. Let's go next to Gonzo, College Football High School Insider. Penn State will blame late night loss due to change of whiteout day game and Aller being outplayed by the Oregon's quarterback Dante Moore. Bold prediction, but I don't think, based on what we saw in the first 3, 4, 5 weeks of the season, I don't think that many people were surprised that Dante Moore outplayed Drew Aller. Dante Moore so far has been much better than Drew Aller up to this point. So I don't know if that was super bold. Probably give it like a 3 out of 10 on the boldness scale, but you did nail it. Let's go next to Little X. Bama and Oregon. You nailed that one. Bama gets the win on the road at Georgia. Oregon gets the win on the road at Ohio State. Both underdogs. So very bold. Well done, Little X. Let's go next to Cloud Chaser from Earth 22. I'm calling the upset this weekend. Washington will pull this out. I appreciate the sentiment. I actually thought Washington had a chance to make this game very competitive. Problem is they just could not get out of their own way in the red zone. Got to score touchdowns when you're playing against the Buckeyes. They didn't. And the Buckeyes did a great job of establishing the line of scrimmage, dominating the line of scrimmage, and a very complimentary style that led to them getting a big road win. So close, but no cigar there from Cloud Chaser. Let's go next to WTSATX 5045. Notre Dame hasn't played in an environment like DWR. Miami Stadium doesn't even come close. Did not have an outcome, did not affect the outcome whatsoever. Let's go to Ross in Zio, 5764. USC is a lock, 38-21. Not so much. I kind of thought USC was going to win that one convincingly as well. So you and I were on the same page, and we were dead wrong, were we not? Let's go next to at Castle TJA. So they are 2.5-point fave after Tulane, Duke, Georgia State, Kentucky. How? LSU as a defense, but all of a sudden defense wins championships? Not a thing. Their offense has elite wide receivers and a Heisman hopeful quarterback. Ole Miss gets it done. Maybe their quarterback, Trinidad Chambliss, maybe he has some Heisman buzz here moving forward with what he's accomplished up to this point. Let's go next to BD2378. Good luck with that prediction. Kirby and Shu will scheme pressure on Simpson. Offense will run the ball. Dogs don't lose at home. I did take Bama in the game. I thought Bama would be able to win on the perimeter. They did. Ty Simpson was unfazed by the pressure. There was very little pressure, by the way, just 8 of 40 dropbacks. Bama gets the win, so not so fast, my friend, with BD2378. And then David Wright, Z2K. In recent history, UGA and Kirby have had a problem dealing with Bama receivers, and there's no lack of elite talent on this year's Bama. But in 2021, Bama would have beaten Georgia had Williams and Mechie not gotten hurt. They ate them alive in the SEC championship game. I know this is a new game, but I've got to go with my Tide. Good guys, 41, Georgia 20, roll Tide. Well done, David. You picked the right side. However, the margin, a little bit different there. Almost nailed it, though, with Georgia scoring 20. They scored 21. Very, very good stuff. We always appreciate those of you that are with us here on a Monday. It's one of the best shows of the week. Love the takeaways, and we always appreciate your engagement. Continue to follow us on our social media platforms, Always CFB. That's Instagram and on Twitter. If you could, go ahead and subscribe to the podcast, wherever you get the podcast. It will be in your inbox the second we put out a new episode. And if you could leave us a rating while you're there, that'd be awesome. We always very much appreciate that. And those of you that leave us a review, you are extra awesome. Very much appreciate your support of the show. And for those of you that are here with us on the ESPN College Football YouTube page, we look forward to releasing several content between now and what should be an outstanding Week 6 of college football. So for all of us here at ACF, for Mark, Jake, Jack, the other Jack intern, Sam, I'm Greg. We hope you have an amazing day, and remember, it's always college football.
Hey guys, it's Greg McElroy. Thanks for watching Always College Football. Make sure you like, rate, and subscribe to ESPN's YouTube channel and wherever you listen to your podcasts.